The huge space station floated in empty space like a giant metal city. Its bright lights twinkled against the dark stars. Ships from dozens of different worlds came and went from its many docking bays. Some ships were as big as mountains. Others looked like strange sea creatures with too many arms. All of them belonged to powerful alien races that ruled parts of the galaxy. Inside the station's main meeting hall, hundreds of alien beings sat in rows of special chairs. Each chair was made to fit a different type of creature. Some aliens were tall and thin like walking sticks. Others were short and round like boulders. A few floated in tanks of colored liquid. They all had one thing in common, though. They thought they were better than everyone else. At the front of the room, a massive screen showed images of space. Right now, it displayed 12 small ships moving slowly toward the station. The ships looked tiny compared to the giant alien vessels docked nearby. They were clean and simple in design. No fancy decorations or scary weapons sticking out from their sides. Just smooth, gray metal hulls that seemed almost boring. Commander Zethkara leaned back in his crystal chair and made a clicking sound with his mouthparts. He was from the Vorthan Empire, one of the most feared military powers in the galaxy. His people looked like giant praying mantises covered in blue scales. When he spoke, his voice sounded like grinding metal. "Look at this joke," he said loudly so everyone could hear. "A new species from that backwater planet thinks 12 tiny. Ships will impress us." What was their world called again? Dirt? Mud? Girth, corrected another alien from across the room. This one had 6 arms and purple skin that changed colors when she got excited. Though I agree the name sounds like something you would find on the bottom of your shoe. Laughter filled the room. It came in many different sounds. Some aliens made chirping noises. Others roared or hissed or made sounds like breaking glass. But they were all laughing at the same thing. The small human fleet approaching their station dock near the back of the room. 3 humans sat at a simple metal table. They wore dark blue uniforms with small patches on their shoulders. The patches showed a picture of Earth from space, mostly blue and green with white clouds. The humans did not laugh. They sat quietly and watched the aliens make fun of their ships. Admiral J. Collins was the oldest of the 3 humans. His hair was gray, and his face had lines from many years of hard work. He had seen wars and battles that would have broken weaker men. But he sat calmly with his hands folded on the table. His eyes moved from alien to alien, studying each one carefully. Captain Lisa Morgan sat to his right. She was younger than the Admiral, but had the same calm look in her eyes. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight style that military people preferred. She watched the big screen showing their fleet and allowed herself a small smile that no one else noticed. Commander Ben Hayes was the youngest of the 3. He had blonde hair and looked like he might be someone's friendly neighbor back on Earth. But his uniform had ribbons that showed he had fought in dangerous battles. He kept his face blank while the aliens continued their jokes. On the big screen, the 12 human ships kept moving closer. They stayed in a perfect formation, each ship exactly the right distance from the others. It looked simple, but any real military person would know how much skill and training it took to fly like that. A huge alien that looked like a walking tree trunk slammed 4 massive fists on his table. The sound echoed through the room like thunder. General Fagmer was from the Brutok clans, warriors who loved fighting more than anything else. His people were famous for never backing down from any battle. 12 ships, he roared in a voice that could shake mountains. My personal guard has more ships than that. I have seen merchant traders with bigger fleets. What kind of military sends such a tiny force to represent their entire world? More aliens joined in the mockery. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish with too many tentacles spoke through a machine that translated its thoughts into words. Perhaps they could not afford more ships. Maybe their technology is so primitive that 12 vessels represent their entire space navy. Or maybe, said another alien that resembled a giant spider with silver fur, they are so weak that this is all the crew they could find brave enough to leave their home planet. The laughter grew louder. Some aliens pointed at the human table while they made their jokes. Others made rude gestures that meant the same thing in any language. A few pretended to count on their fingers, acting like they were having trouble. Reaching the number 12, Merrill Collins finally stood up. The room did not get quiet right away. Many aliens were still laughing and talking among themselves. But slowly, the noise died down as more creatures noticed a human was preparing to speak. He was not very tall compared to most of the aliens in the room, but something about the way he carried himself made others pay attention. "Honored members of the Galactic Council," he said in a clear, steady voice. "I am Admiral Jake Collins of the Earth Defense Force. I speak for all the people of Earth and our colonies in nearby star systems." High Chancellor Mordon called for complete silence. He was the leader of this meeting and one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. His species looked like tall, thin humans, but with skin that seemed to be made of living metal. When he spoke, his words carried the weight of law. "Admiral Collins," the Chancellor said in a voice that sounded like music played on metal instruments, "the Galactic Council recognizes your right to speak. However, I must say that your fleet's modest size raises questions about your people's ability to contribute to galactic security and stability." "We understand your concerns," Admiral Collins replied. He gestured toward the screen, showing his 12 ships. "These vessels represent humanity's commitment to peaceful exploration of space and our readiness to help maintain order in the galaxy." Commander Zeth Kara made his clicking sound again, but louder this time. 12 ships to patrol how many star systems? 12 ships to protect trade routes that stretch across hundreds of light years? "Admiral, my empire has patrol groups larger than your entire fleet just to guard single planets." Captain Lisa Morgan leaned forward slightly in her chair. She wanted to say something, but military discipline kept her quiet. She knew that Admiral Collins had his reasons for letting the aliens think what they wanted to think. Sometimes it was better to be underestimated. A new alien voice joined the conversation. Ambassador Veltar represented the Hegemony Council, a group of species that controlled the galaxy's richest trade routes. His people looked like large cats that walked on 2 legs and wore fancy robes covered in jewels. "Admiral Collins," he purred in a voice like silk, "surely you understand that membership in the Galactic Council requires certain ... capabilities. Military strength is not everything, but it cannot be ignored. How can 12 ships possibly handle the duties that Council membership would require?" "With respect, Ambassador," Admiral Collins said, "Earth has faced many challenges throughout our history. We have learned that victory does not always go to the side with the most ships or the biggest weapons. Sometimes what matters most is how well those ships are built and how skillfully they are used." More laughter rippled through the room. The aliens thought the human was making excuses for his weak fleet. They had no idea what those 12 ships could really do. They saw only the size and made their judgments based on that alone. "General." Thakmer stood up to his full height, which was nearly 3 times taller than Admiral Collins. "Human, I have fought in more battles than your entire species has probably seen. I know what wins wars. Numbers win wars. Firepower wins wars. 12 ships cannot stand against hundreds or thousands." Admiral Collins nodded politely. "You may be right, General. I suppose we will find out if the need ever arises." The meeting continued with more discussions about trade agreements and territorial boundaries. But most of the aliens had already made up their minds about the humans. They saw them as a weak species from an unimportant planet who had somehow managed to build a few spaceships. Nothing more than that. None of them suspected that they were about to learn a very important lesson about making assumptions. 3 days had passed since the first meeting. The Galactic Council was still talking about trade routes and mining rights. Most aliens had forgotten about the humans and their tiny fleet. The 12 human ships floated quietly near the big space station, looking small and unimportant next to the massive alien vessels. Admiral Collins spent his time reading reports and studying star maps. Captain Morgan walked through the station's corridors, watching how different alien species lived and worked together. Commander Hayes stayed busy checking on their ships and crews. All 3 humans were polite to everyone they met, but they mostly kept to themselves. The aliens continued to treat them like unwelcome guests. Some ignored them completely. Others made jokes when they thought the humans could not hear. A few were openly rude, making it clear they did not think Earth deserved a place in the council. Everything changed when the emergency alarm started screaming. The sound was terrible. It echoed through every hallway and room in the station. Red lights flashed on and off like angry eyes. Aliens ran in all directions, some shouting orders in languages that sounded like breaking metal or crashing waves. Communication Officer Nina Torres burst through the doors of the main meeting hall. She was young and normally very calm, but now her face was white with fear. She ran straight to Admiral Collins, not caring that hundreds of alien eyes were watching her. "Admiral," she said, breathing hard from running, "we have a big problem. Long-range sensors are picking up a massive fleet heading straight for this system. Intelligence says there are over 300 ships." The meeting hall exploded into chaos. Aliens jumped up from their chairs, shouting questions and demands. Some ran for the exits. Others tried to use their communication devices all at once, creating a noise like 100 storms happening together. High Chancellor Morden slammed his metal hand on his podium. The sound rang out like a giant bell, loud enough to make everyone stop and listen. "Order! We must have order. Officer Torres, report what you know." Nina looked around at all the alien faces staring at her. Most of them were twice her size and looked like creatures from nightmares. But she was a trained military officer, so she stood straight and spoke clearly. "The fleet belongs to the Red Nebula Pirates," she said. "Their leader is Captain Vexthal. Intelligence reports say he has been attacking trade ships and small colonies for the past 6 months. His fleet has grown larger with every victory." A cold silence fell over the room. Every alien knew about the Red Nebula Pirates. They were not just ordinary criminals who stole cargo and ran away. They were organized like a real military force. They captured ships instead of destroying them. They took prisoners to sell as slaves. They left entire star systems empty and lifeless. Captain Vexthal was the worst kind of pirate leader. He was smart, cruel, and completely without mercy. His own species had thrown him out for being too violent, and that was saying something because his people were natural-born killers. Now he commanded pirates from dozens of different worlds, all united by their love of causing pain and taking what belonged to others. Commander Zethkara, blue scales turned pale. He worked frantically at his communication device, trying to contact his home world. After several long minutes, he looked up with despair in his insect-like eyes. "The nearest Vorthan battle fleet is 6 days away," he announced to the room. His voice shook with fear. "They are dealing with rebel uprisings in the outer colonies. Even if they left right now, they could not get here in time." Other aliens began reporting the same bad news. The Zaltronian ambassador's 6 arms moved in patterns that showed extreme distress. Our defense forces are engaged in border conflicts with the Slag Confederacy. All our ships are committed to that war. Ambassador Veltar's cat-like features twisted with worry. The Hegemony Council recalled our patrol fleets last week for ceremonial duties. The Emperor's daughter is getting married, and tradition requires all ships to participate in the celebration. General Thakmer roared with frustration, slamming all 4 of his massive fists on his table hard enough to crack the metal. My warriors are scattered across Brutok space, putting down 3 different rebellions. It would take weeks to gather enough ships to face such a large pirate fleet. Captain Lisa Morgan stood up and walked to the big screen that showed the approaching enemy. She studied the tactical display with the calm focus of a professional soldier. The pirate fleet was huge, much larger than anything she had seen in her years of service. "Sir," she said to Admiral Collins, "the enemy fleet includes at least 40 heavy cruisers and 15 dreadnought-class ships. They also have hundreds of smaller vessels, fighters, bombers, and fast attack boats. The total firepower is enormous." Commander Ben Hayes joined her at the display. His young face was serious as he analyzed the enemy formation. "They are broadcasting demands on all frequencies. Captain Vexthal wants the immediate surrender of all Council assets in this system. He is also demanding tribute payments from every species represented here." The aliens in the room began to panic. Some called for evacuation ships. Others argued about whether they should try to negotiate with the pirates. A few suggested abandoning the station and fleeing to safer systems. High Chancellor Morden tried to maintain order, but even his authority could not calm the growing fear. "How long do we have before they arrive?" he asked. Nina checked her instruments. "Based on their current speed, the pirate fleet will reach the system in 18 hours. They will be in weapons range of the station in 20 hours. Admiral Collins walked slowly to the center of the room. The aliens were so busy arguing and panicking that most of them did not notice him at first. He waited patiently until gradually, one by one, they became aware of his presence. "Honored delegates," he said, in his steady, calm voice. "Perhaps this is a good time to see what humanity's small fleet can accomplish." The room fell silent. Every alien eye turned to look at the human admiral. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Commander Zethkara let out a sound that might have been laughter if it had not sounded so bitter. "Admiral Collins," he said, "I respect your courage, but 12 ships cannot fight 300. That is not bravery. That is suicide." General Thakmar's voice boomed across the room. "Human, I have fought pirates before. They may not have the discipline of a real military, but they make up for it with numbers and viciousness. 300 ships, even if they are crewed by criminals, can overwhelm any small force through sheer firepower." "The general is right," added Ambassador Veltar. "Captain Vexthal did not build his reputation by being careless. His fleet may look disorganized, but he knows how to use superior numbers to crush his enemies." Admiral Collins nodded politely to each speaker. "You all make valid points. Numbers are certainly important in any battle, but they are not the only thing that matters." Captain Morgan stepped forward to stand beside her admiral. "Sir, the crew is ready. All ships report full combat readiness." Commander Hayes checked his communication device. "Fleet commanders are standing by for orders, Admiral. They are asking when we begin the briefing." The aliens stared at the 3 humans in disbelief. They were talking about fighting a battle that no sane military commander would consider. 12 ships against 300 was not just impossible odds. It was insanity. "Admiral," High Chancellor Mordaunt said carefully, "surely you do not intend to actually engage such a large enemy force. Perhaps we should focus on evacuation procedures and diplomatic options." "With respect, Chancellor," Admiral Collins replied, "the time for diplomacy ended when Captain Vexthil decided to threaten innocent civilians. The Red Nebula pirates have killed thousands of people and destroyed entire colonies. Someone needs to stop them. But 12 ships, protested Commander Zethkara. How can 12 ships possibly stand against such overwhelming numbers? Admiral Collins allowed himself a small smile. That is an excellent question, Commander. I suppose we are about to find out the answer. He turned to his officers. Captain Morgan, Commander Hayes, signal the fleet. Tell them to prepare for combat. Operations. It looks like we are going to have the chance to show our new friends what human ships can really do. The aliens watched in stunned silence as the 3 humans left the meeting hall. Through the big windows, they could see the 12 human ships beginning to move into new formations. The vessels looked as small and insignificant as ever, but somehow they seemed different now. There was something about the way they moved that suggested hidden strength. None of the aliens understood what they were about to witness. They were thinking like every other species in the galaxy, measuring strength by size and numbers. They had no idea that humans had learned to fight wars in a completely different way. In 18 hours, the Red Nebula pirates would arrive expecting to find a helpless space station defended by confused aliens and 12 tiny ships. Instead, they were going to discover why humans had never lost a war once they decided to fight it. Captain Pete Johnson sat in the command chair of the USS Liberty, watching the tactical display show the approaching pirate fleet. His ship was one of the 12 vessels that the aliens thought were too small to matter. He had been fighting battles in space for 15 years, and he knew something the aliens did not understand. Size was not everything. All ships, this is Admiral Collins, came the voice through the communication system. Execute Protocol 7. Show them what we came here to do. Pete smiled as he heard those words. Protocol 7 was something they had practiced many times, but never used in real combat. It was designed for exactly this type of situation, where human forces were heavily outnumbered, but needed to win anyway. Lieutenant Garcia, signal all ships to begin formation change, Pete ordered. His weapons officer was a young woman who had trained on the most advanced systems Earth could build. She worked at her controls with smooth, practiced movements. Formation change acknowledged, Captain, she replied. All ships responding and moving into position. The 12 human ships began to move in ways that confused the alien observers watching from the space station. Instead of forming a defensive line or trying to hide behind asteroids, they spread out in a pattern that seemed to make no sense. Some ships moved toward the approaching pirates. Others angled off to the sides. A few seemed to be heading away from the battle entirely. Commander, Zethkara stared at the tactical display in the council chambers. His insect-like eyes could not understand what the humans were doing. What is this? Are they fleeing? Are they surrendering? Their formation makes no military sense at all. General Thakmer watched with growing confusion. In all his years of warfare, he had never seen ships behave like this before a battle. They are splitting their tiny force even smaller. This is madness. Any military academy student would know you never divide your forces when facing superior numbers. But Admiral Collins was not watching the display in the council chambers. He was aboard the USS Columbia, his flagship, studying information that the aliens could not see. Human technology was different from anything else in the galaxy. Their ships looked smaller and simpler, but inside they were packed with systems that other species had never imagined. Commander Hayes, what is the status of our intelligence network? Admiral Collins asked. Then Hayes worked at a control panel that looked almost magical compared to alien technology. Numbers and charts flowed across his screens faster than any. Organic mind could process them, but he was not relying on his own mind alone. Advanced computer systems helped him analyze the data in real time. Sir, We have complete tactical analysis of the enemy fleet, Ben reported. Their command structure shows 3 main groups, just as we expected. The pirates are using standard pack tactics, with minimal coordination between groups. Each group has one command ship that gives orders to the others. This was information that would have taken alien military forces days or weeks to gather. Human ships carried sensor systems that could analyze enemy formations, identify command structures, and predict battle tactics in minutes instead of months. Captain Amy Clark commanded the USS Freedom, and she was already moving her ship toward the first pirate group. Her vessel looked like a simple gray tube with engines on one end, but appearances were deceiving. Inside, the ship contained technology that represented the best of human engineering and creativity. "Captain," called out her navigation officer, "we are approaching optimal firing range. The enemy does not seem to be aware of our capabilities." Yet, Amy nodded. The pirates were still hours away from what they thought was weapons range. They had no idea that human ships could fight at distances that seemed impossible to other species. Hold position and continue analysis. Let them get closer while we gather more information. On the USS Justice, the youngest ship commander in, the fleet was proving that experience was not the only thing that mattered in battle. Captain Steve Parker was only 28 years old, but he had trained his entire adult life for moments like this. His ship was equipped with systems that could make it disappear from enemy sensors, or appear to be in 3 different places. "At once, sir," reported his tactical officer, "the pirates are beginning to spread out into attack formation. They are planning to surround the space station and force a surrender." Steve studied the enemy movements on his display. "They are assuming we will fight like everyone else in the galaxy. Big ships in straight lines, shooting at each other until someone runs out of ammunition or armor. They have no idea what they are really facing." The human ships continued their strange dance through space. To alien observers, it looked like chaos, but every movement had been carefully planned and practiced. Each ship knew exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment. They communicated through systems that were faster and more secure than anything the pirates could intercept. Captain Kate Williams aboard the USS Defiance was moving her ship into the most dangerous position of all. She was heading straight toward the largest concentration of enemy vessels, a group that included several of the pirates' biggest and most heavily armed ships. "Captain," her weapons officer said nervously, "we are going to be badly outnumbered in that sector. Are you sure about this approach?" Kate had been fighting in space longer than most of her crew had been alive. She had seen battles that would have broken weaker people, and she had learned that sometimes the most dangerous thing you could do was also the smartest. "The pirates expect us to avoid their strongest ships. They will never expect a single vessel to attack their main force directly. That surprise is worth more than any amount of armor or weapons." Captain Rob Davis commanded the USS Valor, and his job was perhaps the most important of all. His ship carried special equipment designed to disrupt enemy communications and coordination. While the other ships engaged the pirates in battle, he would make sure the enemy could not work together effectively. "Systems check complete, Captain," reported his communication officer. "All jamming equipment is ready. We can cut off enemy coordination whenever you give the word." Rob smiled grimly. Pirates were dangerous when they worked together, but they became much less effective when they could not talk to each other. Most pirate crews were criminals who had joined up for easy money, not disciplined soldiers who could fight without orders. Back on the space station, the alien delegates watched the human ships with growing bewilderment. The vessels were still hours away from where the battle should begin, but they were already moving into positions that made no sense according to traditional military thinking. "I do not understand their strategy," admitted Ambassador Veltar. His cat-like species had studied warfare for thousands of years, but the human approach was completely foreign to them. They appeared to be positioning themselves to fight 12 separate battles instead of one coordinated engagement. High Chancellor Mordun tried to make sense of what he was seeing. Perhaps their technology is so primitive that they cannot coordinate their ships properly. Each vessel may be forced to operate independently. But Captain Lisa Morgan, standing quietly in the council chambers, knew the truth. The aliens were judging human tactics by their own standards, and that was a mistake. Every species in the galaxy fought the same basic way, big ships in formation, trying to overpower enemies through superior firepower and armor. Humans had learned to fight differently. "Admiral," she said into her communication device, "the aliens still do not understand what they are seeing. They think our ships are acting independently because they cannot coordinate properly." Admiral Collins' voice came back calm and steady. "Let them think what they want, Captain. In a few hours, they will understand everything. How are our ships performing?" Lisa checked the status reports flowing in from all 12 vessels. Each ship was exactly where it needed to be, with all systems operating at peak efficiency. The crews were ready, the weapons were charged, and the tactical computers had finished analyzing every detail of the enemy fleet. "All ships report ready?" "For combat, sir," she replied. "The crews are confident and eager to begin." "Good," Admiral Collins said. "Signal all ships to begin final preparations. The pirates will be here soon, and when they arrive, they are going to learn why humanity did not need to send a larger fleet." The alien delegates continued to watch and worry, but they had no idea what was about to happen. They were thinking like every other species in the galaxy, measuring strength by size and numbers. They could not imagine that 12 small ships might be more dangerous than 300 large ones dot in the depths of space. The Red Nebula pirates raced toward what they thought would be an easy victory. Captain Vexthal sat in his command chair, planning how he would divide the loot from the richest space station in this part of the galaxy. He had no idea that he was about to face an enemy unlike any he had ever encountered before. The stage was set for a battle that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. The first shot came from so far away that the pirates thought their sensors were broken. Captain Pete Johnson's USS Liberty opened fire at a distance that should have been impossible for any weapon in known space. The blast of energy crossed the darkness between stars like a bolt of lightning thrown by an angry god. The lead pirate dreadnought, a massive ship stolen from the Hegemony Council years ago, simply vanished. One moment it was there, a mountain of metal and weapons bristling with guns and armor. The next moment there was nothing but expanding clouds of glowing gas and scattered debris dot in the council chambers. Every alien eye stared at the tactical display in stunned silence. Commander Zethkaris' mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme shock in his species. "That is impossible," he whispered. "No weapon can reach that far. No weapon can destroy a dreadnought in a single shot." General Fakmer stood frozen, all 4 of his massive fists clenched tight. He had seen many battles and destroyed many ships, but he had never witnessed anything like this. The humans fired from beyond the edge of the system. How can their weapons reach across such vast distances? But there was no time to answer questions. The battle was just beginning. Captain Amy Clark's USS Freedom moved like a dancer, performing a deadly ballet. Her ship executed maneuvers that seemed to break the laws of physics, banking and turning at angles that should have torn any normal vessel apart. The pirates fired everything they had at her, but their weapons passed harmlessly through empty space. Where her ship had been just moments before, the alien observers watched in amazement as the small human ship seemed to bend reality around itself. It appeared to be in 3 different places at once, confusing the pirate targeting systems completely. When the Freedom fired back, its weapons struck with pinpoint accuracy, each shot destroying an enemy vessel with surgical precision. "How are they moving like that?" gasped Ambassador Veltar, his cat-like features twisted with confusion. Their ship should have been crushed by those acceleration forces. No living crew could survive such maneuvers. High Chancellor Mordun leaned forward in his chair, studying the display with intense focus. Their technology is beyond anything we have seen before. Those ships are not following the same physical laws that govern our vessels. The USS Defiance proved why it had earned its name. Captain Kate Williams charged directly into a formation of 20 pirate ships, her vessel racing toward what looked like certain destruction. The pirates concentrated all their firepower on the single small ship attacking them, confident that no vessel could survive such punishment. They were wrong. The Defiance's shields absorbed energy blasts that would have vaporized a Brutok battleship. Strange fields of force surrounded the ship, bending and redirecting incoming fire harmlessly into space. When the pirates' most powerful weapons struck the human vessel, the energy simply disappeared as if it had never existed. Meanwhile, the Defiance's own weapons carved through pirate hulls like hot knives through soft metal. Each shot found weak points in enemy armor that should have been impossible to target. Pirate ships that had survived dozens of battles were cut apart with frightening ease. Captain Steve Parker aboard the USS Justice proved that youth and skill could overcome experience and size. His ship utilized hit-and-run tactics that left pirate captains spinning in confusion, never able to predict where he would appear next. The Justice would materialize beside an enemy vessel, destroy it with a few precise shots, then vanish before the pirates could respond. Where did it go? Screamed Captain Vexthol from his flagship deep in the pirate formation. How can a ship just disappear from our sensors? His crew worked frantically at their instruments, but they could find no trace of the human vessel. Their sensors showed empty space where the Justice had been, even though they had been tracking it seconds earlier. Then the ship would appear somewhere completely different, destroy another pirate vessel, and vanish again. The pirates had never faced an enemy like this. They were used to fighting alien species whose technology they understood. Big ships with lots of armor and weapons, fighting in straight lines according to predictable patterns. The humans fought like ghosts, appearing and disappearing at will, striking from impossible distances and surviving attacks that should have been fatal. 30 minutes of the first shot, the pirate fleet's carefully planned assault had collapsed into complete chaos. Ships fled in all directions, their captains screaming contradictory orders over communication channels that were increasingly filled with static and interference. Captain Rob Davis aboard the USS Valor was responsible for that interference. His ship carried electronic warfare systems that the pirates could not even detect, much less defend against. Their communication networks were being systematically destroyed, leaving individual ships cut off from their commanders and each other. "Sir," reported his communication officer with satisfaction, "enemy coordination has been completely disrupted. Most pirate ships can no longer receive orders from their command vessels." Rob nodded with grim pleasure. Pirates were dangerous when they worked together under strong leadership, but they became much less effective when they were forced to act independently. Most of them were criminals who had joined the fleet for easy money, not disciplined soldiers who could adapt to changing situations. The turning point came when Captain Kate Williams led a precision strike against the pirate command structure. The USS Defiance, supported by 2 other human ships, punched through the enemy formation like an arrow shot from a bow. Their target was Captain Vexthel's flagship, a massive vessel that coordinated the entire pirate fleet. The flagship was surrounded by dozens of escort ships, all of them bristling with weapons and shields. It should have been impossible for 3 small vessels to penetrate such defenses. But the human ships moved with perfect coordination, each one knowing exactly where the others would be at every moment. They struck like lightning, their weapons reaching through the protective formation to hit the flagship's most vulnerable points. Within minutes, the pride of the Red Nebula pirates was a burning wreck. Its command center destroyed and its communication systems dead. Captain Vexthil himself barely escaped in a small shuttle, abandoning his crew and his dreams of conquest. As his flagship died behind him, he sent out a desperate message on all frequencies. Retreat! All ships retreat. The humans are not what they appear to be. But retreat was easier to order than to accomplish. The human ships moved faster than anything the pirates had ever seen, pursuing fleeing vessels with relentless efficiency. Ships that tried to escape found themselves caught by weapons that could reach across impossible distances. Others discovered that hiding behind asteroids or space debris provided no protection from human sensors. The most shocking moment came when the remaining pirate ships attempted to flee the system entirely. They engaged their fastest engines, pushing their vessels to maximum speed in a desperate attempt to reach the safety of hyperspace. The human ships followed them. The alien observers in the Avzar council chambers watched their instruments in disbelief as the tactical display showed impossible readings. The human vessels were not just keeping up with the fleeing pirates, they were gaining on them, moving at speeds that made their own sensors question reality. Those readings cannot be correct, Commander Zethkara said, his voice barely above. A whisper. No ship can move that fast. Our fastest courier vessels cannot achieve those speeds. The readings are correct, High Chancellor Mordun replied, his metallic voice filled with awe. The human ships are moving faster than anything we have ever recorded. They are catching pirates who should have escaped hours ago. Captain Lisa Morgan stood quietly in the council chambers, watching the aliens struggle to understand what they were seeing. She remembered her first time witnessing human ships in full combat mode. The shock and amazement never completely went away, even for someone who knew the technology well. The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was never in doubt after the first 30 minutes. The Red Nebula pirates, who had terrorized the galaxy for months, were being systematically destroyed by 12 ships that most aliens had dismissed as toys. Some pirate vessels surrendered, their crews begging for mercy over open communication channels. Others fought to the end, their captains too proud or too stupid to accept defeat. A few managed to escape, but they were scattered and broken, no longer a threat to anyone. When the fighting finally ended, the space around the council station was filled with debris from hundreds of destroyed pirate ships. The 12 human vessels regrouped in perfect formation. Not a single ship lost. Minimal damage reported across the entire fleet. Not the aliens in the council chambers sat in stunned silence, trying to process what they had witnessed. Everything they thought they knew about warfare had been proven wrong in the space of 2 hours. The silence in the council chambers was so complete that the only sound was the quiet hum of the space station's life support systems. Hundreds of alien beings sat frozen in their chairs, staring at the tactical display that showed the aftermath of the most incredible battle any of them had ever witnessed. Floating in the darkness around the station were the broken remains of over 300 pirate ships. Pieces of metal and debris drifted slowly through space like the fragments of a terrible dream. Here and there, emergency lights blinked from life pods containing survivors who had been lucky enough to escape before their ships were destroyed. In perfect contrast to this destruction, 12 human ships hung motionless in formation. Their gray hulls showed no signs of serious damage. No emergency lights flashed on their surfaces. No distress signals came from their communication systems. They floated as calmly as if they had just returned from a peaceful training exercise. Instead of the most one-sided battle in galactic history, Admiral Jake Collins' voice came through the communication system, as steady and professional as always. Council Station, this is Admiral Collins aboard the USS Columbia. The pirate threat has been eliminated. We are requesting permission to return to our docking positions. High Chancellor Morden tried to speak, but no words came out at first. His metallic throat made small clicking sounds as he struggled to find his voice. Finally, he managed to respond, though his words trembled with shock and awe. Double quotes permission. Permission granted, Admiral Collins. The Galactic Council. The Council owes humanity a debt that can never be repaid. Commander Zethkara had not moved from his crystal chair since the battle ended. His insect-like eyes stared at the display without blinking, as if he could not believe what he was seeing. The mighty Vorthan Empire possessed thousands of warships, massive dreadnoughts that could level entire cities. Yet 12 small human vessels had accomplished something his entire fleet could not have done. "How?" he whispered, his voice barely audible. "How is this possible?" General Thakmer slowly rose to his full height, his 4 massive arms hanging at his sides. The proud Brutok warrior had fought in more battles than most species had even heard of. He had led charges against impossible odds and won victories that military historians still studied. But he had never seen anything like what the humans had just accomplished. "I have been a fool," he said in a voice filled with shame and wonder. "I judged strength by size and numbers. I thought victory belonged to whoever had the biggest ships and the most weapons. The humans have shown me that I understand nothing about real warfare." The Zeltronian ambassador's 6 arms moved in complex patterns that her species used to express emotions too deep for words. Her purple skin had changed to a pale blue color that indicated profound respect mixed with fear. "We have made a terrible mistake," she said through her translation device. "We looked at 12 ships and saw weakness. We should have asked ourselves why a species that could build such vessels would only send 12 of them." Ambassador Veltar's cat-like features showed the same shock that filled the room. His people had traded with hundreds of different species across the galaxy. They prided themselves on understanding alien cultures and technologies, but they had completely failed to recognize what humanity represented. "Admiral Collins," he said, his voice much more respectful than it had been 3 days ago, "I must ask ... how many ships does Earth actually possess?" There was a long pause before Admiral Collins answered. When he spoke, his words sent a chill through every alien in the room. "Ambassador, that information is classified. But I can tell you that these 12 vessels represent a very small portion of the Earth Defense Force. We sent them because we believed they would be sufficient for any situation we might encounter." The implications of those words sank in slowly. If 12 ships could destroy 300 pirate vessels without taking any serious damage, what could 100 human ships accomplish? What about 1,000? How many ships did humanity actually have, and how powerful were they? Captain Lisa Morgan and Commander Ben Hayes entered the council chambers and walked quietly to Admiral Collins' table. Both officers looked calm and professional, as if destroying an entire pirate fleet was just another day's work for them. The alien delegates watched them with new eyes. These were not the representatives of a weak, primitive species from an unimportant world. These were members of a military force that had just redefined what was possible in space warfare. High Chancellor Mordon stood up from his podium, an honor he reserved for only the most important occasions. "Admiral Collins, Captain Morgan, Commander Hayes, the Galactic Council formally apologizes for our earlier ... misconceptions about your people and your capabilities." Admiral Collins nodded politely. "No apology is necessary, Chancellor. It is natural for people to make judgments based on their past experiences. We understand that our approach to military technology is somewhat different from what other species are used to." "Different?" Commander Zethkara's mandibles clicked rapidly. "Admiral, your ships moved faster than our sensors could track. Your weapons reached distances we thought were impossible. Your shields absorbed attacks It should have destroyed any vessel. This is not just different. This is revolutionary. Captain Morgan stepped forward. Commander, humanity has faced many challenges throughout our history. We learned early that survival often depends on being smarter and more innovative than our enemies, not just bigger and stronger. But how did you develop such advanced technology? Asked Ambassador Veltar. Our species have been traveling between stars for thousands of years. How did a newcomer species achieve such breakthroughs so quickly? Commander Hayes smiled slightly. Sir, humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. We developed our technology because we had to. Our world taught us that the universe is a dangerous place, and only the most adaptable survive. General Thakmer walked across the chamber until he stood directly in front of the three humans. Despite being nearly 3 times their height, he somehow seemed smaller than he had before the battle. Slowly, with great ceremony, he performed the highest salute his people could offer. I have witnessed true warriors today, he said in a voice filled with genuine respect. The Brutok clans would be honored to call humans battle brothers. If you ever need allies in war, you need only call our name. Other aliens began to follow his example. Species that had barely acknowledged the humans 3 days ago now competed to offer treaties and trade agreements. The Zeltronian ambassador promised favorable shipping rates for human cargo. The Hegemony Council suggested joint military exercises. Even Commander Zethkara spoke of sharing technology and resources. But Admiral Collins raised his hand for silence. Honored delegates, humanity came to the stars not as conquerors, but as protectors. We developed our capabilities because we believed that those who had strength should use it to defend those who cannot defend themselves. He gestured toward the debris field outside the station. The Red Nebula pirates terrorized innocent civilians. Across dozens of star systems, they destroyed colonies, enslaved populations, and brought misery wherever they went. We could not stand by and allow such evil to continue. High Chancellor Mordun's metallic voice rang with authority. Then let it be recorded in the official records of the Galactic Council that humanity has proven itself worthy of membership through deed as well as word. The vote for Earth's admission to the Council will be held immediately. The vote was not just unanimous. It was enthusiastic. Every species present voted to accept humanity into the Council, and many added formal statements of friendship and alliance to their votes. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Collins addressed the chamber. One final time. Honored delegates, humanity is proud to join the Galactic Council. We look forward to working together to build a safer, more prosperous galaxy for all civilized species. The aliens applauded with whatever appendages their species used for such purposes. But beneath their celebration was a new understanding of the balance of power in the galaxy. Humanity had arrived not as supplicants begging for acceptance, but as a force that could reshape the very nature of interstellar relations. In the days that followed, news of the battle spread throughout the galaxy faster than the speed of light. Trade captains carried the story to distant worlds. Military commanders studied the tactical records with amazement and fear. Governments across hundreds of star systems began to reconsider their policies toward the newcomer species from Earth. A new phrase entered the common language of dozens of different species. Don't judge the fleet by its size. It might belong to humans. Pirates and raiders who had terrorized space lanes for generations suddenly found other occupations. The mere possibility that they might encounter human ships was enough to make most criminals reconsider their career choices. The age of human expansion had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. 12 ships had changed the course of history, not through conquest or intimidation, but by demonstrating that true strength comes from the courage to stand against evil and the wisdom to use power responsibly. In the vast darkness of space, The stars themselves seemed to shine a little brighter, as if the universe itself approved of humanity's arrival on the galactic stage.